Well, hey guys, and welcome to another Interstellar Modeler. It's sure crazy how fast 2019 is flying by. In fact, last weekend was already San Diego's 2019 Comic-Con. Luckily, again, I had tickets for the show this year, and I didn't have in mind to do another video about Comic-Con for you guys, but what prompted me to do so was I came across this promotion involving one of my favorite shows now, the Orville, and it was being put on by a company called Korben Fx. Well, I discovered that Korben is a studio located in Florida that produces models and props for the TV and film industry, and that they were also producing a 3-foot model of the Orville that's to be for sale to the Sears collector, and that a prototype of that model was going to be on display at their booth. So I figured since I had tickets to the show, I would contact Korben and find out if someone would be willing to do an interview with me, and sure enough they got back, and John Eblan, who's the president and founder of the company, had agreed to spend a few minutes with me to do that interview. So I figured I would get into the Comic-Con spirit and put on my Orville uniform and head down for the interview. Now, in the interview, Mr. Evelyn talks about his experience in the industry. He's someone who's been around in the industry for a number of years, tells us a little bit about his company, and shows us that impressive 3-foot model of the Orville. Following the interview, I wanted to share some shots from the Aural Experience. This is something that was put on by the network to showcase uniforms from the show, props, as well as instrument panels and displays, and they also had the actual filming miniature of the Orville itself, which was exciting to see. The other thing they allowed you to do was to take one of the props, the pulsar rifle, and take pictures with it, and they also filmed a funny video of you holding that rifle. So first, let's get started with Mr. John Eblan from Korben Fx. Hey guys, and welcome to another Interstellar Modeler. We're here at San Diego 2019 Comic-Con to spend just a few minutes with John Eblan. He's from Korben Fx. Thanks again, John, for being on with us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's go ahead and get started by just telling us a little bit how you got involved in the industry to begin with.
Well, I didn't do a lot of model building as a kid. Did a little bit. I remember the first model that my dad and I worked on was the USS Constitution, and he pretty much built the whole thing. I think that's kind of how it goes when you're a child.
Sure.
And then growing up, when Star Wars came out, I tried to get my hands on any Star Wars model kit I could, Star Trek, things like that. I've always just gravitated more towards science fiction. And when my educational career took me into architecture, architectural model building became a passion, and that's really where my career with model building started professionally, was with architectural model building. The first job I was hired on to was Pearl Harbor back in 2000. And one of the great things about that for me was that was my first industry job, but when you put a model together, you kind of it's put together the same way, kind of all everywhere.
Sure. Same
glues, same processes. Everybody's got a little bit of a different technique, but the end result is usually the same. So it was a pretty easy fit for me to get in there.
All right. So then you founded Korben Fx, right? So tell us a little bit about your company.
Well, Korben Fx is composed of a handful of very, very talented artists. Most of us there never really set out to be a model maker, work in the visual effects industry, except for myself. I took the one thing that I felt that I was good at, that I loved to do, and just tried to make a career out of it. And the rest of our artists, they've got a varied background. Service industry, electronics, architecture, things like that, and they just kind of find themselves in our employ working with us, and they enjoy it, they love it, they're extremely good at it, and they just kind of see where it takes them.
Great. Yeah. Can you tell us now a little about your connection with the Orville?
Well, we are an Orville license holder, and so what we are doing is we are building currently a 36-inch filming model, a filming miniature model replica of the Orville, and we start with the assets from the studio, the 3D files. We take what they give us, we turn it into the perfect in-house kit for our artist, for easeability of construction. We have to take into account lighting, we have to take into account assembly, paint, things like that. We start with that, and then we have to look at the inside, what type of structure does it need on the inside to keep it rigid, to keep it around forever. All of our miniatures have a steel and aluminum skeletal structure on the inside, and we go from there. We then look at the electronics needs. Generally what we like to do is if If it's lit, we light it.
Okay.
So we also have to keep that in mind when we're building. How are we going to light this? How are we going to balance that?
Right.
And then go from there. From there, we look at what the paint needs are.
Excellent. So we have a model on display here. Can you tell us a little about what we're looking at here?
This is the ECV 197 Orville from the Orville.
Yep.
She's our first piece with the Orville and with Fox, and again, she started out as a digital file that they sent us, and we spent many months working on creating, like I said, the perfect kit.
Yeah.
Now, as a prototype, what we do is we have to go through a lot of revisions to the whole trial and error thing. We find out, based on experience, what works, what doesn't, and then we try to incorporate that into our next build. When we start getting into it, we'll start making notes on when we go to do the next version. Let's change this. Let's tweak this. Let's add that. One of the great things about the way that we design and build and manufacture in Central Florida is that we have the ability to adjust almost instantly. We do all of our own in-house 3D printing on our prototypes. So if we might be working on something during the day that just isn't working, we can actually modify the files then and there and start a new print. And depending on the size of the print, maybe that day or the following day, we can have that new part ready for us to test out.
Very good.
So it's a real quick turnaround time as far as that part of the process goes.
Yeah.
It's exciting too. It's great to just watch those machines go and work and work overnight for us.
All right.
So we can come in the morning and we've got parts waiting for us.
Yeah, very good. So tell us about the lighting on this ship here.
Well, what we've done is we've recreated the quantum drive effect. So what you can see here is that's your standard cruising mode where she's just traveling through space, and then when we activate the quantum drive, you'll see that she goes from the bottom, middle, and then up to the top. And in space, she would then pop into quantum drive. So and then she cycles down.
Wow, that's great. And these are strip LEDs?
We use a combination of strip LEDs and individual LEDs as well.
Great,
that's that effect.
That's fantastic. Now, this then is going to be available for sale for the Sirius collector, I suppose.
For the Sirius collector, she is available for sale. Now, what we do is we take in a certain number of commissions based on what our projected workload is for the year, and then we will basically, the term I use is turn off the tap, so to speak, and then we will process all those commissions.
I see.
And when we get through the commissions, then we'll reevaluate where we're at. Do we need to work on the kit a little bit? Do we need to improve this, change that, and then we'll go back into bringing more commissions back in.
Now I have to ask, you're a fan of the show?
I love the show.
And what do you love most about the show?
Probably like internally. I mean, deep down, I like the fact that it's spaceships, because I've always loved that. But I love Seth MacFarlane's work. He's amazingly talented.
Yep.
He's got a vision for what he wants to do, and that comes out on the screen. They created a very vast universe in a very short period of time that really seems to have its own identity. The crew works well together. The aesthetics of the designs of the ships, of the environments, they look so natural. Such a natural progression in technology and that sort of thing. It's a funny show. It's intelligent. It's got great science fiction. And me personally, sometimes as I'm watching the episode and I'm enjoying it, it's not until the end of the episode and the reveal of something where I say to myself, well, that was a good story. They really had something in there that I wasn't expecting. And it's enjoyable. You can watch it with your family for the most part, and it's a nice ride. That it's enjoyable. I mean, that's the best word I can use to sum up is it's enjoyable.
That's great. Now, one last thing before we leave here is I did find it interesting that Seth MacFarlane insisted on having a model actually for the show versus doing everything CGI, and that seemed to be the case now. It seems like models are or practical effects are kind of making their way back. I'm not sure if they ever fully left, but they're certainly being integrated with CGI. What makes practical effects, you think, appealing to the director as well as to the viewer?
Well, as a fan, as a consumer, when I'm watching films, when something is real, you feel more of a connection to that. So often, vehicles become characters in themselves.
Sure.
And when you know that vehicle is real in some format, whether it's a model, whether it's an actual four-wheeled vehicle or something like that, when you know that, you feel more of a connection to it.
Yeah.
And I think that on the industry side, I think that they understand that as well.
Yeah.
And it's easier for people to relate to that realism, I believe.
Great. Thanks, John, for taking some time out of your busy schedule today to spend with us here on Interstellar. We really appreciate it. Thanks again. Well, there you have it, guys. Korben Fx. You can search for them online. You'll find all kinds of information about their company. Thanks again, John. I appreciate it. Take care. Well, now it's time for the Orville Experience, and this was not at the convention center. It was a bit off the beaten path, but well worth the visit. As you'll see in these pictures, there were a lot of items here from the show on display. Well, let's start off with what I thought was the crown jewel of this exhibit, and that is the Orville itself. This is the filming miniature, and I'd say the model was about 5 feet in length, beautifully detailed. The model was painted in various shades of gray. As you can see, the quality of these props is exceptional. I was impressed by that. I know many of us have seen pictures of props from Next Generation and other sci-fi series, and they never look quite as good in person. But these are really nice. And check out how beautifully detailed the costumes are. And here we have some headpieces. If you're familiar with the show, you'll recognize these characters. And as I said, they allowed you to hold the pulse rifle to take pictures and make this silly video. Alright, well I hope you guys enjoyed that. Just a couple quick points here before we leave. The model that they are making of the Orville is for the series collector, so just bear that in mind. If you're interested in that model, just check out their website for pricing. I was at their site the other day, and it looks like they're also going to be producing a replica of the pulsar gun from the show. And again, these guys are licensed by the Orville to make these replicas, so no doubt they are going to be accurate. Just quoting from their site, it looks like that's going to be listed at about $175. So if that comes finished that way and the pictures look great, I think that's a decent price for that. I may order one myself from them. Now I know a lot of you guys are wondering about a commercially available kit of the Orville. They didn't have any information about that. Like you, I'm hoping someone will come out with a kit soon so that the rest of us can have a model of the Orville as well. As usual, feel free to leave a comment here or email me at interstellarmother@gmail.com if you have any questions. I will see you in the next video. I'm not sure what my next project is going to be, but it will be coming up soon. Thanks again for watching, and take care.